Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I want to talk to you about the motive in the Air India Flight 171 crash that happened last month in June of 2025. I see a lot of talk on the internet, of course. There's always talk someplace on the internet, on YouTube, that this might have been an act of terrorism. Uh, and I want to talk to you about why I do not believe that is true at all. Uh, so before I get to that, I want to read a small blurb on, just in case you've never heard, you just don't know when this actually happened and what happened. Air India Flight 171 was a scheduled international passenger flight from Ahmedabad Airport in India to London Gatwick Airport in the United Kingdom, and it crashed about 30 seconds into the flight. This was 12th of June, 2025. All but one of the 230 passengers and all of the 12 crew members died. An additional 19 people were killed and 67 injured on the ground. So it was a massive, horrible incident, which had been sort of called an accident up until now. And just recently, they just come out with a report that is concerning in the sense that it doesn't appear to be accidental. There are these, if you look over to the right, you'll see these little round metal things. Those are switches, the engine 1 and engine 2 fuel switches, and they were pulled down into the cutoff position. It's right between, you can see it's right between the two seats. So somebody pulled them. And the problem is they apparently have to be pulled up and down. So it's not like you can accidentally hit it with your elbow or something. It had to be intentional. And so this has been a shocking revelation. And who would have done this? And of course, the only two people in the cockpit were these two gentlemen. And the families of these gentlemen are the pilots. They're devastated. They think, and nothing but nice things has been said about both of them. No one thinks they have any reason to do anything horrific like this. Taking the plane down, which would either be a terrorist motive, or it would be a personal motive, which would be basically taking yourself out, but taking everybody with you. And the families are devastated, and they say, and the friends said, they're like, these guys wouldn't do such a thing. But it does seem at this point in time, one of them did do something. Now, I'm going to say the investigation is still ongoing. So if this changes, it changes. So I'm not trying to be absolute about anything here, but I am going to say I do not believe it's terrorism, and I want to take that off the plate because I think people are very frightened of terrorism, and they like to say, oh my God, one of these guys must be a terrorist. Yeah. And I'm going to say probably not. And I want to explain a little bit about terrorism, especially terrorism in India, and who might be behind certain terrorist attacks and how they actually play out. Because most people aren't really, if you're outside of India, the US, we of course know 9/11. We've had terrorist attacks in the US, but they're few and far between, whereas in India and the areas surrounding Pakistan, Bangladesh, it's there's a lot of more over there, as you can see. Yeah. So terrorism is kind of a problem in that part of the world. There's a lot of issues that haven't been settled, shall we say. So I want to explain some of this to you so you can see why I do not believe either one of these guys has anything to do with terrorism. Now, first I want to just read you what terrorism is. Let's go with this. A common definition of terrorism, this Wikipedia, a common definition of terrorism is the systematic use or threatened use of violence to intimidate a population or government for political, religious, or ideological goals. So when somebody commits a mass murder and people say, oh, he's a terrorist, well, not unless he's working with a terrorist organization and had a specific purpose in committing that terrorism in order to change something with the government or whatever they're trying to get accomplished. And so I want to share with you a few examples of this that I'm very familiar with. And so the first one I want to mention, so you can start understanding what terrorist attacks are like, I want to talk about the 2008 Jaipur bombings. Jaipur is a city in Rajasthan in India. Let me read this. A series of 9 bombs exploded in a synchronized manner within a span of 15 minutes on the eve of 13th of May, 2008 in Jaipur. 63 people were confirmed dead and over 200 were injured. The terrorist group Indian Mujahideen claimed responsibility for the attacks. That is an Islamic terrorist group. It's never been exactly proven, but that is a terrorist group. Now, how does that go? Reason that's very personal to me. It is personal to me because my son and I were traveling. He had been studying in Chennai in South India, and at the University of Madras, and so he was on his summer break, and it was May, but they had summer breaks a little early. And so he invited me to come and travel with him because he wanted me to use my money so we could go places. And so we did. And after we finished traveling, we were up in Delhi, and he was going on to Jaipur to do some volunteer work. And I said, hey, I know when you get there, you're probably sick of doing touristy stuff. So, but before you start working, you might want to go down to the tourist area because there's some beautiful things in that particular area. Just go check it out. There's gorgeous buildings and everything. You just take the morning. He said, yes, Ma, I'll do it. I said, great. And then I flew home, and the next day I saw terrorist attack in Jaipur, and they were in that exact area I had sent my son. And I called him on the phone and called him, and he didn't answer, and I'm having a heart attack. I'm thinking he's one of those 63 people. He's dead. And then finally he answers his phone, and I said, oh my God, you're okay? And he said, yes, but we're in lockdown right now. I said, okay. I said, were you down there? And he goes, well, no, I was just in my room playing video games. I'm like, oh, thank God you didn't listen to your mother. So he could have been there, and he could have been a victim in those attacks. And then I want to point out in 2008 in Mumbai, this was attacks. This were coordinated Islamist terror attacks that took place in November when 10 members of the Lashkar-e-Toiba, which is a Pakistan-based Islamic terrorist group, and they are fighting over Kashmir, which is an area that belongs to India, but Pakistan kind of thinks it belongs to them. So it's been going on forever that they're fighting over this. Pakistan wants it, and India is trying to keep it. And they came and they carried out 12 shooting and bombing attacks. It was a horrific thing across Mumbai. And they hit, I think, 2 hotels, a cafe, and I forgot the third other thing. 175 people died, including 9 of the attackers. It was, and 300 were injured. It was horrific. And there's actually many movies about it. And this is Lashkar-e-Toiba about Kashmir. And then just recently, they actually went in 2025. There was an attack on non-Muslim tourists. These happened to be Hindus. And they made sure they were Hindus by 5 armed men and in Kashmir. And they killed 25 young people. It was horrific. And Kashmir is a rough place. This is a picture of my son. We were in Kashmir, and he's sitting between 2 Indian army guys. And so we were up there. Kashmir was lovely, and people were great, but terrorism does go on up there and can be very dangerous. And so that's one issue that is on. There's many different things that from many different groups. So I'm not trying to just point out one group, but I'm trying to point out enough so you sort of understand. And I also want to point out the bombing one, which was the of the plane, Air India flight 182 bombing. Now this happened in 1985. A bomb exploded on the aircraft off the coast of Ireland. It was coming from Canada, flying into England and to UK, and it blew up near as they were coming in for the landing. Essentially, 329 people died, 307 passengers, 22 crew members, and this was coming out of this wasn't an Islamic group. This was a Sikh group. Now the whole issue comes down to the Sikhs are a large group of people, heavily concentrated in Punjab in India, and I don't know how to explain. They wanted some of the Sikhs, not the majority of them, but there's a very militant group which wants to have that area made into a place called Khalistan, and they want to separate from India because they feel like they're getting a rough ride with India. They want to be separate. It's not true for most Sikhs, but there is a very, very volatile group that, and it's in the Sikh diaspora, and so there's a lot of people in Canada who are also pushing for this, and unfortunately, sometimes they're involved in terrorist stuff. Now, I always want to point out this is not the majority of the people, because you'll see. I just want to show you a picture here. Here I am. I'm in Patiala in Punjab. I'm at a Gurdwara. This is where the Sikhs worship. Here I am with a. This is one of my. He's the headmaster at the deaf school I was working at. Lovely, lovely, wonderful man. Here I am talking with some police officers and in the area. So I've been in a lot of these areas, and the people are good people. But unfortunately, politics takes over, and so there are these groups which can be very, very dangerous, and they sporadically do these attacks. Now, one of the funny things with this case is that with the Air India 171 is I've seen on X Muslims saying, "Thank God, these guys aren't Muslim," and they're not. So they're like really thrilled. I think if this, one of these guys was Muslim, we know we'd be blamed for this as a terrorist attack, and that might be true. I'm not saying that it would be a terrorist attack, because again, it should be something coordinated, something for purposeful, and terrorists usually want people to know they done did it, because that's to tell the government, we're fighting against you, and we're going to keep killing all these people unless you submit to our demands. So doing something quietly and having nobody know about it, or have nobody know you're behind it, is kind of pointless. But yes, neither of these guys are Muslim. So a lot of people think they are, because, look at them. They're, I don't know, Indian, brown skinned. Must be Muslim. Okay. This guy's Christian. This guy's Hindu. I see no organization that they're attached to that has any terrorist intent. So that's just not meaningful at all. So there you go. I see no reason that these guys are involved in terrorism, that this is a terrorist event. No. What is concerning is why the plane went down. And if it's true that one of them pulled those fuel things into the cutoff position, one of them took the lives of many, many people. Now, again, we're still early in this. Well, it's been a month, but investigations take a really long time. But this is really frightening news that came out. I think now, mind you, there's some people out there, especially the family members, who want to say, "Hey, we just think Boeing is trying to hide some problem with the airplane, and they're going to blame it on the dead pilots who cannot defend themselves," which is absolutely true. How are they going to defend themselves? They are dead. But I just want to say, tell you a little bit about these guys. So the captain, this is the captain, Sumit Sabharwal. He's 56 years old. He's been flying. Flying since 2020. Wait a minute. Oh, his pilot license is valid until May 2026. He's been flying forever. He's about to retire. He is a single man. But people said he was so kind and so caring, and he was always looking forward to getting back home, so he could, when he got back home, he'd take walks with his father, who was in his late 80s. So he really caring for his father. He lost his mother in, I think, 2022. Yeah, his mother died in 2022. And he did take a medical leave. And there's a whole bunch of things flying around. Oh my God, he had mental issues because, his mother died and he lost his mind, and he's not safe to fly. They approved him for flying. Now, he went through a bereavement process and took some leave for bereavement. Now, if he's a single guy, doesn't have children, his parents are his world. You know what I mean? And especially, losing your mom. Some people take it, harder than others. I lost my parents, and I did not need a bereavement time, not because they weren't great parents, but just because they were in their 90s and I expected it. And I, watched them, decline, and it was sad, and I missed them. But no, I didn't need to go to a psychologist or get bereavement time. I didn't need that, but some people do, and they're heartbroken. So because that's true, I can't say that had anything to do with this. Now, there are some little, I've heard some little things that, oh, he's had some other kind of mental problems. Don't know if any of that nonsense is true, but it's concern. It could be concerning. Now, the other gentleman is Clive Kunder. He's 32 years old, and I want to first say his flight time is he's had 8,596 hours on a Boeing 787. He's had 3,400 flight hours on a Boeing 787. I'm going to say they were good pilots. So they didn't mispilot. I don't know if that's a word. Mispilot the plane. Somebody pulled those things, as far as we know at the moment. He seemed super well liked. He was, I saw a thing from a woman. I don't know if it was his girlfriend, but it was just, she was heartbroken. She's one of the most wonderful people she's ever met in her life. So I haven't seen anything bad about either one of these guys that makes me say, hey, this is the guy who did it. Now, the only problem is he was piloting the plane at the time. He was in the pilot seat, which means he had both of his hands doing this. The guy playing around with what's in the middle in the console would have been him. And so you wonder, the person who had the easier time pulling those would be this gentleman. Now, there is also the thing of the voice recording where somebody said, did you pull that into cutoff? And the other person said, no, I didn't. Now, I was over at Dr. Grande's channel, and he said he thought that when the person said that, there's two possibilities. The person that said it wasn't the person who touched them. And they asked a reasonable question, but looked down and said, oh my God, did you pull those into cutoff? And so that was an innocent person. And the other person said, no, I didn't. And they were denying that they did it. The other choice is that the person who actually did it said, oh, did you put those in cutoff? And the person's like, no, I didn't. So the innocent person said, no, I didn't. And the person was asking the question when they already knew who did it, because they did. Dr. Grande said it was for plausible deniability in case they crashed. That was his theory, that if the plane crashed and they didn't die, they wanted to have some plausible deniability that, I was the one who asked the question, so hey, it couldn't be me. I don't think that would be true, because these are pilots, and they know what the plane is going to look like when it crashes. They know whoever did that knew they were going to die, period. Now, why, and then if the person who pulled them switches back, why would they ask the other person, did you do this? My belief is this, because it's going to be recorded, and the family will be the one hearing that. If they recognize the voice and the voice of their family loved one, their family member who's a pilot in the cockpit says, did you pull this into the cutoff? They're going to think that person is innocent. I would say if the person who asked the question was the one who put the fuel switches into cutoff, if that's the person, he did it so that his family wouldn't think he was the guilty party. So that's what I think. So why he would say that. Now, I'm pretty sure so far we haven't had any identification of which voice it was. But that may be coming up soon. Somebody has to recognize, you would think they'd recognize the voice of one of these men and know that, oh, that's him or that's him. Whether we'll ever actually know what happened, we may not. But if it's true that those switches couldn't have gotten there accidentally, and Boeing isn't lying about it in order to cover up the fact that something went wrong with the plane, which I think is going to be, it could be a conspiracy theory forever. I tend to believe that they would not do that, even though, many people think they could do that, because that saves them a lot of them. I guess it saves their butt from, hey, your planes are falling out of the sky. If you can blame it on the pilots, it's not the plane's fault, and therefore Boeing says we still have good planes. I see reason why people might say that, and especially people who care about these two men think, we can't believe they did it. One of them did it, so therefore it must be Boeing lying. So we're going to have to see where the investigation goes from here. What more will come out? It's very tragic. Now, as far as people, I don't know if it's using the plane as a way to end their lives, and a bunch of other, not, I don't know, for whatever reasons they aren't concerned about who's sitting behind them. That's happened quite a few times already. Planes that have gone down, and it has been not pilot error, but pilot choice. So it wouldn't be a first time, shall we say. But it's not terrorism. And I really just wanted to point that out because I see too many people going there. I understand people are afraid of terrorist attacks, especially, get on a plane and think, oh my God, I hope nobody's got a bomb. I mean, there's a reason we have such high level security, constantly, putting us through all the crap that we have to go through to get on a plane. I mean, there's a paranoia there. It's extreme. And so no one wants to think that when they get on that flight, that the plane is going to blow up or nosedive. So I get people's fear on that because I like to fly because I like to get places. But if I could get there without flying, I probably prefer to not be on the plane. It's just it's you feel like you have no control once you're in there in that metal tube. You're like, and it takes off. You're like, wow, what happens? What happens happens. So anyway, those are my thoughts about this not being terrorism. I hope that this helps some people understand this a little bit better. Thank you for being here. Again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. And I look forward to finding out a little bit more because but I'm not sure it will ever be, anybody's going to be absolute about this. And it's always a frustrating thing when you can't come to a conclusion that you can be comfortable with and say, now we know what happened. Many of these things just end up being something that we always wonder about. And we'll see what happens. Thank you for being here.